Zara Key cowered in the corner of the detention cell, her crystalline skin flickering between deep purples and blacks colors that betrayed her terror. The stories she'd heard about human interrogation techniques made her neural pathways burn with anticipated pain. Her own people, the Velthari, were known throughout the galaxy for their clinical, efficient extraction of information. But humans? The stories whispered in dark corners of space stations spoke of creatures so savage that they found pleasure in others' suffering. The cell door hissed open, and Zara Key pressed herself further against the wall. A human male entered, tall, with dark hair and surprisingly gentle brown eyes. He carried a small bag and what appeared to be a primitive wooden chair. "Hello," he said softly, setting the chair down a respectful distance from her. "My name is David Chen. I'm here too. Well, I suppose you'd call it an interview." Zara Key's skin flashed bright orange, the Velthari equivalent of a bitter laugh. "Interview? Yes, I know what humans call their torture sessions." David paused, tilting his head slightly. "Torture? I'm sorry. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm a cultural anthropologist, not an interrogator." "Do not mock me with word games," Zara Key hissed, her skin cycling through angry reds. "I know what I am. A captured enemy. I know what you are. A species that delights in pain." David sat down slowly, keeping his movements non-threatening. "Where did you hear that about us?" "Everyone knows. The Corthan survivors of Proxima Station spoke of humans who smiled while inflicting agony. The Melody refugees described beings who found joy in destruction." David's expression grew troubled. "Those were military conflicts, and I won't defend everything that happened during the war. But Zara Key, may I call you that? Those stories don't represent all of humanity any more than military actions represent all Velthari." Zara Key's skin patterns stilled for a moment. No human had ever used her name before. "I'm going to ask you some questions," David continued, "but not about military secrets or ship configurations. I want to know about your culture, your art, your music. The things that make Velthari civilization beautiful." "Why?" The word came out as barely a whisper. "Because in 3 weeks, our species are going to sit down at a peace negotiation table. And I believe that peace can only work if we understand each other as people, not just as enemies." Zara Key watched him warily as he opened his bag and pulled out what appeared to be some kind of primitive stringed instrument. "This is a guitar," David explained. "Music is one of the ways humans express emotions and tell stories. I thought, perhaps you might share something about Velthari music in return." "You wish to torture me with sound?" Zara Key asked, though her skin had shifted to a curious pale blue. David's fingers moved across the strings, producing a gentle melodic sound that seemed to float through the air. The melody was simple but hauntingly beautiful, full of longing and hope. As he played, he began to hum along a low, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through Zara Key's crystalline structure in the most unexpected way. Her skin began to pulse with soft rhythmic patterns of silver and gold colors she hadn't displayed in months. The resonance of his voice was affecting her neural pathways, but instead of pain, she felt warmth, calm, something that her language had no word for, but humans called peace. "How?" she whispered as the last notes faded. "How does your primitive sound-making create neural resonance?" David smiled, not the cruel expression she'd expected, but something gentle and genuine. "I don't know the science behind it. I just know that music speaks to something universal, something that connects all conscious beings." For the first time since her capture, Zara Key moved away from the wall. "Among my people, we create harmonic light patterns. They tell the stories of our ancestors, the beauty of our crystal cities, the songs of our moons." "Could you show me?" David asked, his eyes bright with genuine curiosity. Zara Key hesitated, then slowly began to pulse with intricate patterns of light across her skin. Blues and greens flowed like water, while golden threads wove through them like music made visible. The patterns told of her homeworld's floating crystal gardens, of the way morning light fractured through the atmospheric prisms to create rainbow cities in the sky. David watched in amazement, occasionally asking gentle questions about the meaning of certain color combinations or the significance of particular patterns. He made notes in a simple paper notebook, sketching rough approximations of her light songs. "It's beautiful," he said when she finished. "Absolutely beautiful." Zara Key's skin flickered with surprise. "You understand it? Not the technical aspects, but the emotion, the love for your home?" "Yes, that translates perfectly." Over the following hours, they exchanged more than just cultural information. David showed her photographs of Earth's landscapes, explaining how humans found beauty in sunset colors that weren't so different from her light patterns. She described the crystal singing caves of her homeworld, where natural resonance created music that could be felt as much as heard. When David pulled out a small container of what he called chocolate, Zara Key initially recoiled, expecting some kind of chemical torture. Instead, she found herself experiencing her first taste of sweetness, a sensation that translated through her crystalline structure as waves of pure pleasure that made her entire being glow with warm amber light. "This is, how do you say, enjoyable?" she asked, her skin patterns cycling through a maze of purples and golds. "We call it delicious," David laughed. "Though I think your word for it looks much more beautiful than ours sounds." As the day progressed, Zara Key realized that everything she'd been told about humans was wrong. Yes, they were capable of violence, but they were also capable of music, art, laughter, and kindness. They found pleasure not in causing pain, but in sharing beauty, in learning about others, in creating connections across the vast differences between species. "Why are you doing this?" she asked as David packed up his guitar. "Why show kindness to an enemy?" David paused at the door. "Because you're not my enemy, Zara Key. You're a person. A being with thoughts, feelings, art, and dreams. The war happened because both our species forgot that about each other." As he left, Zara Key's skin slowly shifted through contemplative blues and silvers. Tomorrow, she would begin working with David to create the first comprehensive cultural exchange guide between their species. The peace negotiations would have something they'd never had before, a foundation of mutual understanding and respect. The torture she'd expected had never come. Instead, a human had shown her something far more powerful and transformative, the pleasure of genuine connection between two conscious beings who chose to see each other's humanity, or in her case, consciousness rather than their differences. And in that small detention cell, the first seeds of lasting peace between their civilizations began to grow.